Добрий день.
Hello, everyone who has joined us today. This is Ukraine Media Center at Ukrinform. It is 167th day of the full-scale invasion. I'm grateful to all those sharing the truth about this war. Right now, I would like to introduce to you our next speaker, Andres, founder of the World Central Kitchen in Kyiv, who will be discussing the activity of this organization in Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. This company has been providing considerable food support to Ukrainians. And now let us hear from Jose how this work started in Ukraine, why you are here, and how are you helping Ukrainians.
So anyway, thank you very much for having us. So World Central Kitchen, we activated on the first day of the war. We began in Medica in Poland. World Central Kitchen, we do emergencies. This is the first time ever we do like a war operation. When we came, we thought we were going to be helping Ukrainians, women, children, elderly, leaving Ukraine as the Russians were attacking. And we realized that we could be helping in the border as we saw long lines where in the middle of winter, still cold, snowy at times, people will take 1, 2, 3, 4 days to cross. People that left with whatever they had, sometimes with no money, or sometimes even with money, no place to buy food. And we began doing what we always do. One meal at a time, sometimes big problems, they have very simple solutions. We began feeding in Medica. Before next day, we were in Shimish. Before 2 weeks, we were in every border, not only in Poland, but in every other country where Ukrainians were living, making sure that food, water, hot food will not be the problem. But very quickly, we began realizing that the weight was inside Ukraine too, and we began doing the same food operations on the Ukrainian side. Very quickly, we began contacting what we always do. World Central Kitchen is an organization by cooks. When you have fires, you send firefighters. When you need doctors or nurses in medical emergencies, you send doctors and nurses. When you have to feed people, who do you think can do it in the smartest way? Those are chefs. So we began contacting many restaurants. Many of them, some of them were doing already feeding. But we saw that when we come as one, we become more powerful. So slowly we began opening the operation all across Ukraine. Many cities at a time, and here we are 165 days later. We've done 127 million, by now it's 130 million meals. We're doing right now 210,000 hot meals. At one moment we were doing 500,000 hot meals because hot meals was the best way to do food in the shelters. Right now we're doing 1.1 million meals, around 40 to 50,000 food kits. It's almost like enough food for a family of 3, 4. We have more than 500 Ukrainian restaurants in this effort. We have probably more than 5,000 team members in total. Probably the number is bigger, but we are in 1,100 cities every day, total 8 countries. Every day we distribute in 7,220 distribution points. We are feeding in 1,580 shelters. Some of them are like Warsaw, the very big one in Poland, Madrid. I'm from Spain. When Ukrainians arrived in Madrid, I'm very happy we were there helping. For 150 days, we were in 80 border crossings, as I said at the beginning, 24 hours a day. Anytime you went there, was always somebody, a big group of volunteers, sometimes semi-Ukrainian refugees, sometimes Polish firefighters, sometimes in Hungary, in all the countries we were. And in total, we were around 420 refugees assistance centers, just again, providing food. What we've been doing is simple, was Ukraine has more food to feed the world. We know Ukraine is the biggest food producer, one of the biggest food producers in the world. What we were trying to do was helping with the logistics. When I went first time to Chernihiv, Remember, the station was closed, the train was not working, one bridge was. What we tried to do is break through those logistics and provide help. We arrived there, we met with some of the restaurants we're already feeding, but we helped them just to do it better, quicker, faster, and if possible, even increasing the number. At the end of the day, what we did was simple. Bring the food people, we call ourselves food fighters, to come together to cover the short-term needs of the different communities because lack of money, lack of infrastructure, because supermarkets are closed. We're talking especially in the first weeks, month, where Ukraine is under war. People are moving out. We were moving in and making sure that nobody will be left out without food. So very much this resumes the. Do you have the map there of the? Is the map? Just for you guys to see. We have this digitally. It's updated daily. We can almost show you how many meals every location has received to date. This shows you the scope because this is daily. The bags we do weekly because it's very smart. The people that can cook in their homes. The hot meals, we do it daily. I just came back from European. I was with one of my heroes, the mayor of European, who I met on April 1st, as I was able to go to European and Bucha, and we kept going. And this is what we've been doing, just going to those areas that they were hard hit, especially because of the Russian invasion, well south of Zaporizhia, south of Mykolaiv, north of Kyiv, east of Bakhmut and Kramatorsk. And very much what I'm very proud is that we began bringing food from outside when we couldn't get certain things inside. But for the last few months, we've been able to buy local, buy fresh fruits here, beets, cabbage, local as the production began, but also buying wheat. If Ukraine is the biggest wheat producer in the world, it doesn't make sense to bring wheat from outside. If Ukraine produces corn, it doesn't make sense to bring corn from the outside. So we've been trying to make sure that every dollar we invested in helping Ukraine, that stay in Ukraine. Imagine when we help a restaurant, paying per meal, they're our partners. They're working because they have a big heart. Nobody's making money doing this. But when you pay them $2 or $3 per meal, the restaurant is able to be open. The restaurant is able to pay the cooks. The restaurant is able to buy the food. The restaurant is able to maintain the normal flow of a city. So we've spent almost already $300 million. We are fully funded by, mainly it's a lot of people in America that support us. Even now the organization is getting support from more and more people around the world over the years. But every dollar we got, we've been making sure that we'll not only help in this difficult hour, Ukraine, but in the process, keeping the economy running. I do believe this is the future of humanitarian relief. This is the future of food relief. In the process of helping some people, don't throw money at the problem, just try to invest in the solutions.
Хосе, такі обсяги насправді.
So such scopes are truly amazing. And who works on your team? I do understand that to produce such scopes, it's something unreal. So who are on your team? Are these volunteers? Are these people coming here from abroad? Or who are these people?
Who works in Ukraine? Ukrainians. This is Ukrainians helping Ukrainians. What we bring, I'm a cook. I have restaurants. I have 40 restaurants. But in emergencies, I always realized that the cooks were never helping in the emergencies. Nobody called us, we didn't go. And I said before, who do you think is the people that understands better food systems? The people that are in the food system. Who are? Restaurants. We have restaurants everywhere in Ukraine, around the world. If I go to Bahamas after a hurricane and I don't have a restaurant, I build one kitchen, and then we provide relief. But if we have restaurants in Ukraine, and we have chefs, and we have people that have heart and empathy, what better than to say, hey, instead of everybody working alone, why we don't become one? Why we don't become food fighters? And this was not difficult to achieve because everybody was wanted to do it? Who was doing it? Maybe a restaurant was doing 100 meals. We told them, why you don't do 1,000? And when they did 1,000, we told them, and now why you don't do 2,000? Restaurants were not doing it. They say, hey, can we join? Sure. And that's who is doing it, Ukrainians. I said we have around 5,000, but there's many places that volunteers show up randomly. And I can tell you that probably we are 7,000, 8,000, easily. So we are a big team of people. We have trucks, we are moving around, how many?
120 per week.
We're moving across Ukraine, 120 trucks. We have 24 warehouses. 4 of those warehouses are making the food bags. I just came from the one we have in Kyiv. 120 Ukrainians, many of them refugees themselves, that we are able to employ, that they are making. In the one in Kyiv, we make, what, 10,000 bags a day or something like that. And it's beautiful to see, because people are pouring their heart, their know-how. I'm from Spain, I live in America. I've never been in Ukraine before. Who is doing this? People like Yulia, people like Katya, people that are risking their life. Chef Beluga in the south, in Zaporizhia, who every day goes 2-3 kilometers away from the front lines. Sardor, who we lost 2 weeks ago, south of Kharkiv in Chernihiv. They were sleeping in the community center, and a missile hit, and him and Marina, another amazing woman. And you know, I never thought that as a cook I will be losing people. But we are losing a lot of people, right, in a non-logical war. But you know, when we got the first kitchen hit, it was in Kharkiv, and we got 4 wounded. And our partner, the owner of the restaurant, told the people, okay, we stop cooking, no more cooking. The kitchen was very much damaged, was destroyed. You know what the Ukrainians did? 4 of the wounded were women. Say, we're going to find another place, we're going to move the equipment, and we're going to start cooking. You know how long it took them to start cooking? 24 hours. And the 4 wounded, 2 of them came back 3 days later. They were injured, and they were there helping with one hand. That's the spirit of the Ukrainian people. So who is doing it? The spirit of the Ukrainian people. What we bring is use the experience we have. And we've been in big ones, always very difficult situations. Right now we've been in Afghanistan. We were in the middle of the earthquake. Right now we are in Panama because it's an emergency. We are about to start feeding again in Palestine because it's been another war, another bombing. Just we go and we feed people. We make sure that the dignity that a plate of food gives is never lost. And food brings hope. And that's it. Ukrainians are feeding Ukrainians. And they are another part of winning the spirits of this war. Just through food, one plate of food at a time, with dignity. This is who is feeding Ukraine. This is who is feeding Ukraine. This is the food we are providing. This is who is delivering food to Ukraine. These are the people that every day, they can be in the safety of their homes, but they go 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers near the front line. And I know people are going to say, and why are you delivering food there? Why people don't leave? When you go and you see an elderly woman that barely can walk, that is taking care of a husband that cannot move, that they have no money, that they have no car, why they don't leave? Because they can't. This is the food we're serving. Why? Because we have the best chefs in Ukraine doing it. This is who is making the bags? Ukrainians. This is a big, one of the big warehouses we have. This is the one in Dnipro. Who are we helping? Ukrainians that need our help. With now, these are the bags delivery. We're getting help from Ukrinform, Ukrinform. This is the most difficult name I've ever known pronounced. We've been moving with wagons, food all across Ukraine. We send food to Kharkiv, we send food to Dnipro, we send food to Mykolaiv, we send food to Kramatorsk, well, until we were feeding when the missile hit in the station. Who is feeding Ukraine? Ukrainians. This is Ardor. This is the man that we did a video. You can find it in World Central Kitchen. And I remember in this video that he said, I'm willing to risk my life to make sure my people will not go hungry. This is Ardor. You know, we got trains, destroy, sometimes many. But we learned that even a missile, we had trains that because so much fire, we had cabbage, and the cabbage cooked. I made the joke that, hey, look at, the Russians are cooking the food for us now. But this is the reality. It's risky to be here, sure. It's risk for everybody. But the least we can do is be next to you and make sure that we keep fighting next to these amazing Ukrainian people that they're doing God's work.
Хосе, як приймаєте рішення?
So how do you take decisions, or how do you learn about the needs of the people in some specific location? How are these decisions made, and how do you collect the information?
So I always say that vertical organizations are the worst organizations, because you have somebody at the top and you have to wait for the boss to give the order, and sometimes the order don't flow. I say that we are a flat organization. If I have somebody in Washington, D.C. giving the orders in Ukraine, I don't think somebody in Washington, D.C. knows what's going on in Ukraine. Who knows? Julia knows. Sasha, who is always with a camera, but he's always delivering food or driving me or translating. It's Ukrainians making decisions in real time, very logical, very practical. If somebody needs help, we're going to be there. How do you know they need help? Because we are with boots on the ground. The only way to provide humanitarian relief is when you're there. That's what I've been doing. I've been driving around Ukraine a few times. I wanted to learn the situation on the ports and how we can come by boat. I came by boat. Why? Because I wanted to learn. We had a boat that was bringing food to Ismail. So one of the times I came to Ukraine was by boat. I had the boat because I was crazy thinking like I could go Mariupol one day. I know it's impossible, but I thought if it's possible, because a peace is cheap. Let me be ready. So that's why we had the boat. Who makes the decisions? We all make the decisions. The decisions make themselves. When I came Bucha and Irpin on April 1st, why? Because we knew people were suffering for days and weeks, and we could be there. We didn't make the decision. The need of the people made the decision for us. The least we can do is try to be there and learning how we can help them. April 2nd, we came back with 6,000 kilos of food. April 3rd, we come back with more trucks and more food, and we can move in Hastomel and we can move in north. You see, the decisions, in a way, they make themselves.
Шановні колеги,
Dear colleagues, your questions, please. I'm Irina Ododenko. I have a couple of questions. So what companies are you working with? How many of them are here in Ukraine?
Local, different.
Okay, the 500 restaurants are all in Ukraine. We are buying, we have different factories we try to buy from. I don't have the names because where is the photo of the food? You see, this is all made by Ukrainians, factories and by Ukrainian people. If we can buy it here, why I'm going to bring it from the outside? I think it's much smarter. We don't have to be driving through the border every day so much. Even when we have to, we bring things because still Ukraine is under war. But every time we come, we make the effort to buy the bread locally, to buy the fruit locally, to buy the beans, the wheat, the chicken locally. Everything you see here is made in Ukraine, and we buy in Ukraine. And the restaurants, we have the list. We can share with you. Even sometimes I don't know if I want to share them because I feel guilty if then something happens to one of them. But there are restaurants you've been. This is my wife checking that I'm okay. Every time she sees a siren, because she follows Ukraine now, she calls me to make sure I'm okay. So companies are many. It's restaurants is, early on when we realized that seeds were a problem, some farmers couldn't afford buy seeds because banks were not giving loans. We're talking in the middle of, Kyiv still was, the Russian troops were still in outside the city. Once that happened, I began going around. I began meeting with some grain farmers that sell seeds, and I went to the heart of Ukraine, and we bought, I think, $10 million of seeds. That's not much, but we're a small NGO. But we show the way to the bigger organizations that if we want to help, one quick way to help is those farmers that don't have the money to buy the seeds. If we can give them the seeds, they take the risk, they will say yes. So we did that. We did the same with the small seeds. In Chernihiv and other parts, people didn't have access to seeds. Every Ukrainian in the rural areas have the beautiful garden outside the house. And you have the cabbage now. So we began buying packages. I call it the borscht package, Had the potatoes, the carrots, the cabbage. And we began giving that because it's not about the money. The seeds were not available, right? So this is the other things we were doing. So we've been working with very different type of companies. Anybody that wanted to help, it's not only giving food, it's giving dignity. You see, Alexei, he's working in Irpin, has to mail every day. When you see him, the interaction he has with everybody. But this is not only him, it's every person, not only what's in the kitchen, it's every Ukrainian. And people want dignity, people want love, people want respect. We have some restaurants, as I said before, that people come and eat in the restaurant. This is giving food with dignity. This is giving food. We have that in Kharkiv, we have that in Odessa, in Lviv, in Odessa, in Dnipro, that one place that is beautiful. It's places that you go and people feel, they don't feel alone. It's very important people don't feel alone. This is Katia delivering in the front lines. She's one of the leaders with Yulia. But the leaders are also in the front showing that we are next to the people. That's the people. You see, people want respect. People want dignity. No use throw them a box. It's more than that. It's to tell them we are here with you. We're not going to let you alone. So we work with anybody we can work.
У нас є ще питання.
Так,
We have some more questions. So, can you please share what is the daily or monthly amount spent on foods, on hot food and food packages?
I am not the best for financials because I'm just the cook but I believe that numbers should be always more open. For us, we're an organization that we're supported by people because they see what we do every day. We're very active in social media. This war has been the most active war in social media in the history. But if you see World Central Kitchen for 11 years, we have a very special model. We don't do it to show off what we do. We do it because people want to know. Because when they see what you're doing is when they want to be with you. Because not everybody can come to Ukraine. They support you with tweets or with money. So, as I said before, we have already spent $300 million. So you can see the number. It's between 40 and 55 million a month we've been spending. But obviously, we bought seeds, obviously the boat, is all the costs involved. But we are very happy that with that money, we've been able to do more than 130 million meals, especially the quality of the meals and especially the quality of the service. It's not like we show up one day. The motto of World Central Kitchen is when we show up one day, we show up the next day. And we show up the third day and the fourth day and the fifth day. And we never stop showing up until we think the mission is over. I know other organizations show up and you don't know when they show up again. We are not that type of organization. We keep going back and keep going back.
розкажіть, будь ласка, з яких країн
Can you please share which countries are donating most of this food aid and who are the leaders in this issue?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Which are the countries providing most of this food aid? Which countries are the leaders in this support?
With us, you know, I'm not very versed. I know some of the numbers, but World Central Kitchen is 100% to this day is 100% financed by private donors. The amount of donations we receive are $10, $20, but we have hundreds of thousands of people around the world that support us.
Hi there. Can you talk about how, I was asking you about this earlier, how your role has changed at the border in the shelters? I
Yep.
think you're not as active because it's not as, but talk
Correct.
about that, how it's changed. And how
I mean,
that factors in.
you know it. I mean, I've been I think I have the quickest record in crossing the border. I think last time I crossed the border in 12 minutes. But when you do it often, at the end, you learn how to do it quick. The border was very important for us. As I said before, we had around 80 border crossings and transit hubs, meaning any big major transit hubs, we were there. But the border crossings were very important for us, especially late February, March. Remember, April was still snowing, was very cold. You could see families freezing. We didn't only provide food. We were not the only ones doing it. But I can tell you we were the only ones doing it 24 hours a day. Heat. So why now we are not doing it anymore? Because now you cross and you don't see, it's completely different. People move fairly quickly. It's another issue, the trucks. The trucks, I think, Ukraine, Poland, they need to do more because 4 days ago when I crossed, 5 days ago, was 35 kilometers of trucks waiting to cross. This is many days waiting in the border. So one simple way to be helping Ukraine is making sure that trucks can leave Ukraine and come back to Ukraine very quickly, because if not, complicates the response. Remember when the gas shortage in Kyiv and other cities was gas, fuel. Remember that they were hitting gas stations non-stop, gas facilities. So was gas coming from the side, but sometimes they were waiting for 10 days outside in Poland to cross into Ukraine. So the issue was that during a few weeks we had problems in Kyiv and other parts. We brought our own gas to put it in some cities so our cars will have the gas. So that's what we do. You see, we have a problem, we try to find the answer. I'm not going to give more problems to the Ukrainian government saying, hey, we need gas. No, we brought our own gas, our own fuel. We put it in the big cities we needed it. And our cars, because we have many, had the gas to move around on delivery. So the situation has changed. We stopped actively. We had a big kitchen in Shimish. It's where many American chefs and other volunteers came. It was a kitchen that could do more than 100,000 meals a day. We never put it to that moment, but it was a huge kitchen that gave us a lot of support to cover Medica, Shimish especially. But again, we were in 40, 50 other crossings across 5, 6 countries. So the situation is that now is completely different. Now, for example, we're in Spain, where I've been there a few times. I was able to be there with Dr. Biden and the Queen of Spain. And it's a center that welcomes Ukrainian refugees. And we are there feeding, because sometimes it's a hotel and they stay there a few days, sometimes 1 week, 2 weeks. And we are providing the food until they find a place in Spain that can welcome them. So the situation in the border right now, it's okay, but we are waiting, I think, winter. I have a feeling like if hopefully the war ends, because Ukraine wins and peace treaty is achieved, I think it'll be a huge comeback of Ukrainians, maybe, and we'll have to be ready in case the same thing happens. But for us, it's very quickly to activate between the kitchens, World Central Kitchen had, plus our restaurant partners on the Polish side, on the Hungarian side. We can activate this in less than 24 hours. 12 hours we can be feeding.
Я дякую вам, Хосе. Хочу
Thank you so much, Jose, on behalf of all those Ukrainians, and thank you to the people on your team. We appreciate this very much. Thank you for supporting us on this path to our victory. This was Jose Andres, the founder of World Central Kitchen, a company helping Ukrainians with food all around Ukraine, as we could have seen. Thank you for being with us. Goodbye.
It's coming. And Europe, America, the countries wanted to help Ukraine. We're going to have to put emphasis that the humanitarian aid cannot stop. And the winter is going to be very difficult winter for many Ukrainians. We need to be ready. I'm going to make sure the World Central Kitchen is here next to the Ukrainian people. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for this.